Michigan named 6 team captains on Thursday, and perhaps for the first time ever, at least in my 11 years covering this team. It felt like there were some interesting things that came out of the press conference. Let's get into it right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. Thank you so much to all of our everydayers. Check out the show every single day. Thank you for making us your first listen, even though it is 1:58 in the PM at this time of recording. I just assume that all of you just don't listen to anything until you check out this show. That might be egotistical of me. I jest before the Michigan fan haters and particularly the Buckeye fans come in and start saying what they want to say. We'll talk about the team captains, the 6 guys that were named, the importance of that right off the top. Then we're going to get into Rod Moore. I'd asked Rod Moore about asked him if there was a setback. Clearly there was. He actually he threw out an expletive and then went ahead and said everything. And then Max Bredeson asked Bryce Underwood, or asked so that he could room with Bryce Underwood. That's important. We're going to get into that in segment 3. So let's start off with the captains, 6 seniors. Unsurprisingly, you had the 2 returnees, the 2 two-time captains, Max Bredeson, Rod Moore. That's huge. And then you add 2 on the offensive side, 2 on defense. Marlon Klein, Giovanni Elhadi, and Derek Moore and Ernest Hausman. Not surprised by it. Actually, I am slightly surprised by Marlon Klein because we'd never really heard much of like the players saying like, yeah, we really look to Marlon. But I think that's well deserved. And it's great to see like a foreign born guy who's a project come up through and become that guy. And I think with him being in the jungle, I can't say it the jungle. I have to go with my Jungle Cruise. The what's his name? Jesse Plemons, the jungle. Have you ever seen that movie with The Rock? I wonder how much a lot of this offseason has really helped him kind of get into that leadership role. I think that's great to hear. Not surprised by Giovanni Elhadi, who's been spoken of as being a guy that all offseason was like, last season was unacceptable, not just for us as a team, but for me personally. We can't let that happen again. Kind of reminds me, mentality-wise, of Josh Ross going into 2021. Like I've said, there's a lot of parallels between this and 2021 as far as the teams and the culture and all that kind of stuff. I think that's really interesting. So you have that. Then on defense, I mean, Derek Moore, what a way to grow into that role. And I was not surprised by him or Hausman, considering they were 2 that got to go to Big Ten Media Days in Vegas. That's usually a precursor to becoming that guy. But like another year, this time, Rod Moore getting to be an on-field captain, right? Because he was voted captain despite the injury last year. So he didn't get to be that on-field guy. But Max Bredeson following in his brother's footsteps, which it just feels like it's like such. It's crazy to think, because like Ben Bredeson left after 2019, his second year of being a team captain, his older brother, and here you are 6 years later and his brother is getting his second team captaincy as a walk-on, no less. Ben was at least like a highly rated recruit, like a big win over Wisconsin in the recruiting battle. You didn't have those, but it kind of like the Glasgow's, that you had 3 Bredesons leave their state also in the Midwest to come over. And I think that, and we'll get to more of the Max stuff kind of with the Bryce Underwood stuff later, but it's huge to be able to have a guy like him who's, I would say, the heart and soul of this team. Now, there's a couple other things that I think make it interesting. 2 tight ends, essentially, because you have Bredeson's a fullback, but that kind of speaks to the Michigan culture as well. The idea that you've got 2 guys who are at least nominal tight ends in that room that are team captains. I don't think that happens anywhere else, right? Like having a fullback being your captain as it is kind of an anomaly because a lot of teams don't even have a fullback. So it's pretty big for Michigan to be able to have that. But I love this group of leaders, to be honest, because you either have you have some guys who I think are uber talented, like a Derek Moore. I think you've got guys who have had to work at it, like a Rod Moore, like a Marlon Klein, like a Max Bredeson. I mean, that's most of it. Guys who had were a lot more highly thought of as recruits, like a Gio Hadi, but didn't necessarily rise to the expectations. And then through his attitude and work ethic, got there. And the fact that Derek Moore said that before they revealed that he was a captain, everyone is cheering his name and trying to because it's a player vote, right? This isn't chosen by coaches. Happened earlier yesterday while we were recording the mailbag, literally at the same exact time. So to be able to have the team behind you the way that Derek did, I mean, that's phenomenal, right? To have a guy that's he's been a playmaker, he's stepping into that role even more so now, to be able to have a good kind of mix of different personalities, different talent types, different trajectories, right? This isn't just, yeah, he was our 5-star, so we named him a team captain type of stuff, right? I don't think they have any seniors that were 5-stars now that I think about it. Who are the 5-stars on this team right now? It's Bryce, Andrew Babalola, Ty Haywood, Justice Haynes, didn't come part as a recruit. Failing to think of who else. Because weirdly, they we've kind of gone through the guys that were the 5-stars, but the fact that it isn't just the highest rated guys are necessarily it's varying degrees, of difficulty and seeing the field and all of that. I want to talk about Ernest for a second before we move on. I think he's the kind of guy that you think of as yeah, even though he was a transfer, right? It's kind of cool in some ways that you have a transfer on there. And he's the only one, if I'm thinking of this correctly, yeah, he's the only one who was a transfer. But just acclimated, he's been a voice of reason in that room and on the defense. You like to have a linebacker be because the linebacker on defense is especially the star linebacker. When I say star, I don't mean that a star position. That's I think more Ohio State star, buck, whatever. I think though to have the guy who's considered your main linebacker as a team captain is crucial more than anything, because it's like having a quarterback be your team captain. Now, obviously, Michigan was going to have Bryce. If Bryce Underwood was a team captain, they'd have some problems. But there is still some leadership there. We'll get to that in segment 3. I like this group. I think that this bodes well. Only a couple other guys I would have looked at and said, yeah, I think that they were probably also maybe could have been in that mix. TJ Guy, Zeke Berry, being among them. But otherwise, I think it's good because you also have levels, right? You got a defensive lineman, you got a linebacker, you've got, and then you've got a defensive back in Rod Moore. You've got 2 tight ends, and you've got, and then you've got wait, no, I already had the fullback. 2 tight ends and an offensive lineman. I mean, I think that's fine. You don't normally expect wide receivers to be team captains. So they really only have the couple seniors, Peyton O'Leary and Donovan McCauley and Anthony Simpson. So 2 of them very new to this culture. Anyway, let's move on to some of the more interesting stuff that came out of this. Let's start with Rod Moore. We'll do that here in just a moment. But before we do, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. Listen, you already know it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. Might as well just put that in, make your money. He's been wrecking everything in preseason. And with that, you might as well pick your Detroit Lions. Don't pick. I understand there are Wolverines at the other teams, all 3 of them. Don't pick the other 3 NFC North teams. No, just stay away. Anyway, you can also parlay your division winner dark horses Go to a different division. That's all I've got. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start planning your futures bets now because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. All right. Take a little. I'm going to have an unabashed. I have an unabashed love affair here with the A&W ice cream sundae beverage. It's like the most delicious thing ever. Having to hydrate the voice because it keeps on trying to go out on me. If you're watching and you see me putting up my hand here, you notice I got a bandage on my finger. How did you get that, Isaiah? Stupidity. Yeah. I can't even explain how this happened. I have 3 stitches in my finger that I got last night. I was washing a knife and I don't even understand how I'm like washing it. I have it apart here and somehow like felt like I did this but went this way. I can't explain it and I just chucked the kitchen knife right directly into my finger. Finished cooking like a champ. So that was good. Had to get stitches. A little hard to type with the bandage on. Thankfully, the knife wasn't sharper. I can't explain it. But fun times over here as we wait in the preseason. We're gonna find out how. Like I'm gonna have to cut this bandage down for the future once the mobility can come back, right? Because then a precarious position for picture taking. They're like, oh, you come back like on August 31st to get it taken off. It's like, and there's a game in between there. So we'll see how that works. Let's get into Rod Moore. I want to read the quote. I actually really wanted to have a video, but I forgot to bring a memory card yet. That became a problem. But I think it's best to just read the quote if I can get this to. I was going to paraphrase, but let's not do that. So he was like, I asked him, I said, what has been your setback? And he started to obfuscate and he was like, expletive. I might as well just tell y'all. Yeah, thank you, please. But he says, I tore my ACL in March. It was, what was it? I think 24, meaning last year. And I had the surgery in April. And then I went through rehab and I got about the 8-month mark. And I remember I had a torn meniscus as well. I had both sides, lateral and medial, with the ACL. It was such a small tear that we didn't really address it when I first got the surgery. But then I started doing my rehab again. I started feeling a pain that wouldn't go away whenever I was striking the ground. And I think it was coming from my meniscus. And so it was either go get surgery again or try an injection. So I tried a PRP injection and then that didn't work. So I was like, what else is there to do? I got to fix it now. So now, I mean, ACL is 100% good. I'm just working my way back from the meniscus for surgery right now. So, I mean, I've been cleared and everything. It's just a matter of how I feel when I feel ready to go back on the field. So he also explained that how it happened was he was actually slowing down during a play early in spring ball last year. And that's how that happened. But essentially, he beyond the ACL, he is fully 100%. There is some pain, but more so it's because he's had the surgery now to repair. That's what the part of the thing was like. Tried the injection, didn't work, had the surgery, if I remember that correctly. But the thing is the trust factor. We've talked about this during the Blake stuff. If you are a longtime Locked On Wolverines watcher listener, with his injuries, that I now listen. I'm not a high level athlete. I have some athlete abilities when I'm in shape. I'm only halfway in shape at the moment. But like, I'm going to liken it to when I broke my foot back in 2011. It was a precarious position. I had to be in a full cast for, what was it? Like 3 or 4 months. It happened in June or July, and it wasn't until like halfway through football season. I was living in Los Angeles. And before I could get my cast off. And then I was in a walking boot for another 6 weeks. So by the time I was still like in shape enough that once the walking boot was off, I could run 3 miles. And yeah, I was a little out of breath, but it wasn't like a couple months ago, I couldn't run 3 miles at all. I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back. I ran 3 miles yesterday for the first time straight in 4 years. But it actually almost 5. But, you know, I was still in good enough shape. But the problem wasn't that I was out of breath as much as it was I didn't trust my foot. Right? Like it still hurt. I could do it. I knew there was no problem with it. The pain was still there, but I didn't trust it. So I wasn't, and that lasted for a long time. That lasted about a year and a half, 2 years before. And I've not ever been as good of a runner as I was prior to the injury. So, and part of that is also like started getting knee problems and stuff from not being on my feet and not being acclimated to running and all of that stuff. So like that's going to be the process for Rod. He's going to have to work through a lot of these kind of tangential things, learning to trust it the way that he did, because right, like he's an instinctive player. He's going to have to work his way back. Now, he said this is up to him. This is not a situation where the coaches are holding him back. This is him slowly getting acclimated. This is his decision at this point. Now he wants to get back ASAP, right? Like he knows that he's like, I'm already emotional about the idea of getting back. He says he's a full go in practice now, but it's still like whenever he's held back, it's not because the coaches or the doctors are sitting there and saying, we're holding you back because you're not healthy yet. It's still like, it's kind of more on him at this point to get to that point where he feels right and he feels good. So I don't think that you're necessarily going to see Rod Moore in week 1. He didn't seem very optimistic about that either. I think it's going to look a lot like 2023, right? Like he got his first play in week 4 as a reserve, was still a reserve, didn't look great against Nebraska in week 5. I would not be surprised if it's kind of similar. If like you see him at Nebraska, getting in as a reserve, and then he starts to kind of come on against Wisconsin, and then maybe we're off to the races from there. So that would be my guess, kind of based off of what he said. But now we kind of know why it's taken so long. I just don't think he fully trusts himself more than anything. So, because that's a process. I don't know if you've ever broken a bone and been like accustomed to movement, all that kind of stuff, but it's a process. So, I empathize as fellow injured person. Anyway, actually I had a lot of fun. Like I made the weirdest noise when I hurt myself. I just went. It was like just like the weirdest noise that's ever come out of me. Anyway, let's talk about Bryce Underwood rooming with Max Bredeson. What that means a lot, I think. Get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rouette Ready. Rouette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the unusual pills that can take hours, Rouette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast. On average, in 15 minutes, effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident in control when the moment is right. Or if you're like in severe altitude. I just watched the episode of Top Gear where they were up in the Andes, and they took a similar type of thing. If traditional options haven't worked, Rouette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Completely online, Rouette connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. So head to Rouette.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rouette website for full safety information. I'm having a love affair with this A&W ice cream sundae. Yeah, that was a little bit of Arrested Development reference. Having a love affair with this ice cream sandwich. All right. Huge stuff with Max Bredeson revealing, because got asked about Bryce Underwood, and he's like, wow, let me tell you, coming to know Bryce pretty good. He's been my roommate throughout fall camp. And asked how that came about. Because you would assume it's like, okay, you've got, like we said earlier, I said near the beginning of the show, that Max Bredeson is kind of the captain. Like, I understand there's 6. There's 2 returning guys who were captains last year. Max Bredeson, as much as we don't talk about him, is kind of the heart and soul of this team, right? Every team has at least one guy that's that, right? Like, sometimes it is the star player, Aiden Hutchinson in 2021. Mikey Sanders still 22 and 23. But it wasn't just Mikey. Blake Corum, obviously as well. Multiple guys on those teams, but Max is kind of the guy. Now, I think, I could see Ernest Hausman kind of having that same Mikey Sanders still type of effect as well, defensively. But I think that if you were to say, like, who is the singular most important leader on the team, it's Max Bredeson. So to pair him with Bryce Underwood, true freshman, is huge in and of itself. Because here's the thing. If with all the talk of Bryce, smooth operator, calm, all of that, that's already important to hear those types of things. Not like, this isn't a knock, but think of like Tate Forcier leading the offense in 2009. That felt like a roller coaster, didn't it? So to have calm and smooth operator, that's awesome. Straight out the gates here. But on top of that, though, like, that was I think Tate was the last time that Michigan's had a true freshman quarterback. And it felt like kind of topsy-turvy, number one. But to pair the strongest leader on the team with a guy that is going to be tasked with being the leader of the offense. Like, Max Bredeson might be the leader of the team. There might be 2 other team captains on offense, but as Sherrone Moore was saying, the rubric for the starting quarterback is takes control of the offense. Right? For all of the knocks that came from like Mike Valeni of like Shea Patterson, like, oh, he's not a team captain. Like, can you really trust? Like, this is kind of like the path in a way. It's like a boot camp in leadership. Mentorship is what's happening here. And there's no one else that you'd rather have, right? Because like, as much as you want him to learn from Mikey Keene and Jake Garcia, and maybe you're not getting as much on-field learning from Mikey Keene at the moment, like, those are 2 guys who are brand new. Like, you're not going to learn everything you need to know about like being a leader and all that from Jaden Davis. No offense, but he's entering his 2nd year. He's got a long ways to go as well. So for Bryce to kind of get that essential boot camp, and for Max to take it upon himself, right? Because he could very well like been like, I want to room with Eli Owens and make him the best fullback that he can be. That's like my eventual heir apparent at the position, all of that. But that's not what happened here. It's cool to see that you're getting that quarterback more ready in ways that you can't really quantify, right? This isn't like, oh, he's out there, throwing passes with the wide receivers and stuff like that. But Bryce was actually doing that. Donovan McCulley had noted that he was being kind of lackadaisical about getting that work in, and Bryce called him out. So he already has the leadership capabilities, number one. But now he's honing it and he's learning more about how to do it at a higher level, all while he's about to take the reins for the offense, we presume, here coming in a few days. So I think that's massive. I don't think that that's something that you're necessarily going to quantify, but if you mix all of these things together, the talent, the work ethic, and the leadership, like that could be a potent trio that you just, some of it you can quantify the talent, some to some degree, right? Like you'll be able to see it in stats and just, the eye test and all of that kind of stuff. But like the leadership, like we might not necessarily fully see it, but you've already heard guys talk about how Bryce has been a leader, which is just kind of rare for a true freshman. So that you want to have that at the quarterback position, but you especially want to hear it from a guy like Bryce, about a guy like Bryce, because the only way that you're going to reach the full potential is that you have all of those things working in tandem with each other. So that's just massive. I can't understate that. I don't know what word to use ever when it comes to overstate, understate. I'm sure I'll get some emails about that. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today. Our next show will be the first during game week, folks. We're really there. And then we'll really start to kind of get into, I don't want to say a groove. It's going to be a different year with every alternating game being a road game. We are set to go to all of them. I got my ticket to, at least my one-way ticket back to LA for the USC. Did I tell you guys? I had so I'm flying different airlines all the way throughout. I'm going to end on this. But I'm flying American to Oklahoma. I've got multiple legs. I get in late on Friday night, and I didn't have to have multiple legs, but I decided to fly out of Flint, which is a 15-minute drive from my house. So I'm like, yes, I will take multiple legs just to be able to have the benefit of flying out of Flint, because like getting in, getting out is going to be so easy. Nebraska, I'm driving. And I'm staying with Steve Dace on the way back. I want to go to his church on Sunday morning. Excited about that. I'm flying Delta to Maryland. I don't have a flight for Chicago, but I might do the same and fly out of Flint, because it probably end up being about the same as driving. And it's up to you guys if we do like a meet up or something. We'll probably do it in conjunction with one of the other sites or something like that. But I had my flight on Spirit to USC, and I like flying Spirit. I used miles to do it, but if I fly Spirit, because of my nervousness, my anxiety on flights, which I'm still working on, like some flights are great and I have no problems, and I'd say the other half I am a complete disaster in the air, and it's like the most harrowing experience that a person could possibly have. And I've learned that this sounds like a bougie thing, if I sit in the big front seat, their version of first class, that I don't have any problems. So especially cross country, I want to try to do that, because I'm flying to Seattle. It ended up being the same price to fly first class when you factored it in baggage, as on American, as it did to sit and coach. So I was like, well, let's see, that's a no-brainer. And I ended up doing that, and it was easy cross country flight. So I'm like, I'm not flying cross country unless I can fly in something that's like that, because it's just, I'm not a disaster. And so I booked it about a month and a half ago, and I was like, sweet, all my flights are taken care of. And then at the end of July, I got a message from Spirit saying, your flights have been canceled. Thanks, guys. So so far, I've only got my ticket out there. I don't have it back. All my flights are almost booked, but I will be at every game. That's it. That's the story. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again on Monday, game week. Peace.